is just fantastic.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be taking a look at the triumphant return of Alex Elmsley, I'm Alex. In our time of need, the horn of Helm Hammerhand has blown from the deep one last time. It's been a while since Alex has been on the internet, as it were, after he was, well, outed for being an incredibly toxic and horrible person. The word brick has been stuck in my head for a while. But he has returned and released a video. Now, I knew about this because of a tweet from Nick Diorio, and the video is now around. We all get to see this wonder, this marvel that is I'm Alex's return to the online space. Now, if you need a full breakdown of what happened in the past, I will link videos I have done on Alex in the pinned comment, because it would take far too long for me to just play the clips and go through it fully. The shorthand is the following, so yes, I can give you the cliffs notes. He's a horrible person who was in a toxic relationship, mostly of his own doing. He made threats, and yes, much of it was recorded. He was outed by his ex, in fact. Many of his old friends went silent, some did call him out, but only did after the fact. It was a bit cringe, let's face it. At time of recording, the video has over 180,000 views, has 4.4k upvotes and 7.9k downvotes, over 3,500 comments. What tickles me is that the first comment that is more appropriate simply reads, well, at least he didn't use a ukulele. Credit where it's due, I guess. He speaks. Great. I don't have to listen to some cringe-ass song. But I do know for a fact, while he's not running ads on this, because he explicitly states in the description as such, he does use TikTok videos throughout. They may well have music within, and I may have to take those out of this video or mute them entirely. This video is over an hour and a half long. Over an hour and a half. It is an absolute slog. So we're going to try and get through some of the key points from each individual segment and hopefully shed some light on Alex's position, but managing to somehow reduce it down to a video that's a bit more forgiving with regards to time. Although I should point out, if one is going to truly clear their name, they need all the time in the world, if that is the intention here. The fact it's taken so long, though, is impressive, because most people had forgotten you existed up until the video's release. The views on it, though, would say otherwise.
This video is my response to allegations made by my ex-girlfriend Alice Hes, who I was in a relationship with for the majority of 2023. Alice hit me, kicked me, emotionally, verbally and physically abused me, as well as threatened me and blackmailed me constantly throughout our relationship.
So I'm a f***ing whore mouth bitch retard.
Is it generally because you're just brain dead?
Yeah, I'm very brain dead, yeah.
Is that why you decided to go on the offensive instead of the maybe?
Offensive.
I don't know what to call what you did. It was weird. It's always weird. You always take the weird route. Just do the normal route, which is just do the normal route, but a normal girlfriend.
You're acting like this is all just me, and that's something you really need to fucking fix.
I'm gonna bash your head against the wall with a brick if you don't shut the fuck up.
I'm going to state that that clip might resurface every so often, because you've got to remember here, many of us saw in 4K him make very obvious threats towards his now ex-girlfriend. We saw that. There may well be a case where he can debunk much of what she has accused him of, or asserted in the past. Of course, it does not change the toxicity that we have all seen. That part can't be undone because it is from his own mouth. He can try and downplay it as, we're both toxic. It doesn't justify anything. It also serves as a minor deflection from the original points of the kind of person you wanted us to believe you were, and the kind of person you actually are.
Alice has continued to harass me by posting false information about me, as well as fabricating stories about our relationship online to this day. Since our relationship ended, Alice has lied continuously for the last 12 months that I was under a police investigation, to friends, ex-girlfriends, and YouTube commentary channels. Alice has continued to make false allegations about me to this day, and said that she had pressed charges against me in a comment on TikTok. This is a lie, as at no point have I been interviewed, arrested, or charged with a crime, but Alice continues to slander me publicly with these lies.
If that is the case, and that this is all one big lie, you can, for defamation's sake, you can take it down that route legally, if that is true. The police can be notified of things and choose not to take it further if there isn't enough to go on. They don't have to be in contact with you at that point. There's also the possibility you're telling the truth. We won't know. This is one of the biggest problems with the internet when it came to this, and any other time we've ever seen relationships like this deteriorate and all this become court of public opinion as opposed to a legal court, it should have all, of course, gone straight to the police. 100%. Because what you did, and what you're claiming your ex did, fell under manipulative and coercive behaviour, which is also known as domestic violence. I don't know if I can say that on YouTube. Many within the comments to this video have said that you're both as bad as each other. 100%, they all accept that. But they also believe that this is your weak attempt at dragging out to try and weasel your way back into the online space, because apparently you have yet to learn and master the art of would you like fries with that.
Alice said that future partners can check Claire's law, and later claimed she got me put down in the system so that any future partners who know how Claire's law works can use this information to stay safe from me. The information that is accessible through Claire's law would be a criminal record, also known as a criminal history. All of this information is available on the Claire's law website, which I will link in the description.
The thing with the Claire's law link that you put in is that it would be virtually impossible for any of us oiks to go and look through, because it's at the police's discretion. We can't look at those DVD records. We really can't. It's not something open, it's not a sex offenders register. But the website does acknowledge all the traits you're going to in this video accuse your ex of that we all know apply to you as well, right? Based on what we do know, a lot of context was missing from the original messages that your ex put out. You in this video do put all the context out there that does show, a bit more transparently, that both of you have the potential to be as bad as each other in certain contexts. The one thing that separates you from her is the video evidence to the contrary. The parts that show you being absolutely diabolical in the online space towards her.
Alice has said that Claire's law can be used and that I am in the system, alleging that I am a convicted criminal or that I have a criminal record. Alice also says in the same messages that the police didn't do anything at all. These statements completely contradict each other, as it would not be possible for the police to have done nothing, and for the police to have put me on the system as a convicted criminal or as someone with a criminal record.
So this can be answered with a yes and a no. Since this concerns the Kent County Police, I can safely tell you as someone that lives in Kent, the police really don't do anything around it. They really don't. It is equally possible for them to have put you onto the system in some capacity, a note applied to a record but not a criminal record, as somebody simply to keep their eye on. That's not a criminal record, that is an observation. Things do get dropped all the time, and of course over a period of time those records are eventually removed. And I don't mean criminal records, I mean records of your mention. Without any proof though, it is of course a assertion on the part of your ex. So it can be disregarded until such time the public are made aware of the truth of the matter. And that's a big problem with both these two instances, the ex and of course Alex, where we don't actually know definitively who's telling the truth.
Alice's story continues to make no sense, as Alice later said that I was charged by police, but this would not be possible if the police never did anything at all.
So I'm going to point at a slight discrepancy here, and it's a fail on the part of Alex, one of many fails. On the first comment we saw there, we had a date. We do not have one for the DM, so we don't know if that's the correct order they were sent in. We don't know when it was sent. Also, if you look at the answer to the question, I did everything I could, yes. If the police were involved and charges were pressed, and it didn't go any further, that would work if the police were unable to conclusively prove anything, right? In that instance though, the part that does raise questions is the part where the police would have had to have spoken to you, or somebody would have had to have spoken to you in a legal capacity. It would have been handy for you to now say, by the way, I had no contact with the police.
I would like to make it incredibly clear. I have never been contacted, approached or interviewed by police at any point in my life, and I do not have a record or any cautions.
It's a shame that came 30 seconds after you'd said what I just covered, because you added more stuff accusing your ex of being a liar and that's it, right? Rather than go on the attack all the time if this is so important to you, which it should be, of course it is if you want to be a YouTuber especially, it would be wise to keep this stuff together. And yes, I'm going to be a bit more like that, because this is not the best so far.
Claiming that I am a convicted criminal or have a criminal history is the first of many lies that will be covered in this video. There has at no point ever been a police investigation, but Alice has continuously lied to hide the truth about what really happened in our relationship and solidify the false narrative that she has built about me over the last year. Alice wrote all of these messages and posted the document knowing that the police investigation was a lie, as it would not be possible for Alice to share any information if this was at any point an ongoing case.
Now there is a point to that. There really is. But I would point out, when it comes to the online space and people wanting to out each other, that is, as many of you know, a form of perverting the course of justice. Of course it is. interfering with investigations to an extent as well, taking matters into your own hands. Bit of a vigilante thing, right?
A YouTube commentary channel called Samuel said that she had been dealing with the police instead of immediately taking it to social media when he spoke to Alice.
Hey, I just thought I'd come in to say that I've spoke to Alice, the ex of Alex, and I've also spoke to Einabber. Now, Alice is dealing with this with the police as well. Has got the police involved. So instead of just immediately taking it to social media and speaking about it, has also got the police involved beforehand. And is dealing with it that way. She's going to the police about that, trying to get the situation sorted properly before she speaks about it online. Which is definitely a change. Usually people just immediately come online to speak about stuff and air it all out before going to the police.
This is a lie, as Alice had already posted months before she had released the document that I was on Claire's Law and a comment on TikTok in April 2024. This would mean the police investigation had already finished and that I would have a criminal record 3 months after we had broken up.
So there's a point there, isn't there? But it concerns your timeline of events. If you hear a dog snoring, I'm not sorry. Now, I remember covering all of this in June of last year, when the document came out. The livestream itself was in June as well. You're playing things slightly out of order. Did you notice? This is not helping your situation to exonerate yourself or explain yourself away, and it is equally possible for the police to be involved over a period of 3 months and simultaneously do nothing. Now, because of these gaps, and because this video will drag far too long, the rest of the segment, for the first part anyway, is a bit useless going forward for us. So we're going to skip ahead to the next part, the next segment of the video, titled Alice Tweets, at 7 minutes and 25 seconds into his video.
I have taken my time gathering information and evidence, as Alice has continued to lie about me and the abuse she put me through during our relationship, whilst blackmailing me and threatening me. Alice has created a one-sided narrative that does not show the reality of what had happened during our relationship. Due to Alice's constant posting about me and my own personal issues, my response has been delayed many times, and all of this will be covered throughout this video.
No offense intended to you, the great internet sensation Imallexx, but you can cite the constant barrage from your ex in your direction as a reason for you not saying anything sooner. Hell, you can mention other exes if you like, who also had outed you for how you treated them. You can also claim that Alice is lying. This may well seem like a gang attack of some kind. The delays being that Alice is constantly using her platforms to out you and speak ill of you. One definite accusation levied at Alice that held true was that Alice definitely cropped out some context in the messages between the two of you. We know that to be the truth. It'd be very hard for Alice to deny that. However, even with the context and the potential for toxicity on Alice's part, it does not take away from you being toxic. As I earlier stated, yes, previous girlfriends had corroborated the toxicity.
When Alice's story was questioned by people on Twitter, she responded with threats to delete my phone number whilst also insulting me and anyone who pointed out these inconsistencies in her document. Alice would then block these people after arguing and insulting them for replying to her posts, as they were highlighting many of the inconsistencies and lies that Alice had made. Alice changed her Google document multiple times to hide these criticisms, and has cropped messages that showed her using the same racial slurs that she had accused me of bringing into our relationship, as it directly contradicted her story.
Something of interest I had noticed throughout this video so far, and it's quite long, but it's one big point that becomes overarching throughout, is how much of an effort Alex goes to make it seem like Alice is the only one that did any of the ABUSING, right? Because if one person does it and I do it as well, then surely it's completely cancelled out. That's the mentality. Or, no, she's just telling lies and I didn't do any of this. Actually, she did it to me. That's the kind of language that comes from somebody who themselves is the ABUSER. It's a very unusual tactic to employ. And the way that Alex has managed to go around trying to explain this is by using the fact that Alice had edited the Google Doc multiple times, blocked people on Twitter, deleted comments, because people were calling into question obvious discrepancies. It is possible for two people to be simultaneously toxic towards each other, harmful towards each other. It does not excuse anything. Some people will go into this blindly just taking Alice's side, and the same will apply to the minority that will blindly support Alex. This is where we find whether people have any form of hypocrisy, double standards, whether they're able to apply the critical thinking. The problem is, much of Alex's history and his toxic behaviour, all the way back to Slazo, can be shown publicly, is public knowledge. Hell, I covered most of that in a documentary video on him years ago. The same does not apply to Alice, who has been covering much of her trauma, which is how it can be seen, optics-wise especially. I'm not trying to explain away or say that she is innocent in anything, on purpose, because that's another reason many can edit a document if made in haste. Potentially, emotionally compromised, we make mistakes, and we have to correct the mistakes when people like Koth and Seeth tell us we've made a mistake, right? I guess I'm prattling because there was a point here and I've just forgotten it. Sorry.
This was unacceptable behaviour, and I deeply regret using such horrific language, and this will be further addressed in this video. Alice has erased any evidence that these events had taken place, or that she had been at any point abusive, physically, verbally, or emotionally towards me, and this proceeds throughout her entire document, which has since been edited multiple times, which was pointed out by a user on Twitter. Alice's entire story has been built on lies, and in this video I will be showing screenshot evidence that directly refutes the claims that she has made against me, as Alice intentionally left out hundreds of text conversations that would disprove her stories and false narrative that she has created. Instead, it would show that Alice had been abusing me for our entire relationship, and that she has not stopped harassing me for the last year.
Well, it's funny you mentioned fabricated and lies and all that, because I forgot to include earlier that Alice had tweeted out, shortly after your video was made public, 3 images from Kent Police. Now, these images are from the Vulnerable Investigation Team in Maidstone, and they show that there's a document containing safeguarding advice in regards to a criminal report. The second image shows the victim care card along with the incident and the date. And the third image is an email to Alice from PC Hammond regarding a crime reported on the 27th of May 2024, and that the police in charge of the investigation would like to be able to speak to her to progress the matter. The word fabricated seems a bit misused then, because there is apparently proof in existence that she has not lied about the police side of this anyway. Again, you are trying to portray her as solely a liar, therefore nothing she says can be taken as truth. Yet we have video evidence of much of it. Do I need to play the clip of you threatening to bash her in with a brick?
Alice has made tweets stating that I do not have any trauma from our relationship together, and that she never hit me. These statements are untrue, and in fact Alice admits to slapping me and pushing me in another in her own document.
Alex, in those same things, you were being ABUSIVE towards her. You backed her into a corner so she slapped you. You backed her into a corner so she pushed you off her. You may have highlighted the parts where there's an admission of physicality, but the context is important. Does that leave trauma? Perhaps to your ego? Don't forget here, a lot of what you were accused of involved you getting too close, too aggressive, you.
Alice also posted a series of tweets in an argument on Twitter, stating that I do not have BPD, also known as borderline personality disorder. Alice has even gone as far as diagnosing me as a narcissist in her document, and she claimed that she is an empath. I was diagnosed by my psychiatrist with what they believe to be emotionally unstable personality disorder.
Hold up. Oh my god, hang on. You've debunked her point, yes. But you debunked it after the doc was released in July of 2024. At the time those comments were made, this is why timestamps and dates on those tweets are important. You haven't included them. So we don't know, based on what you're presenting, whether or not they were made more recently, or whether they were made before you got diagnosed. I'm sorry to be that guy, but if you're going to present this information, the dates on those documents don't help you. I fully support transparency 100%, and I could believe you have BPD, because you proved it. Yes, congratulations. Doesn't mean you can't be a narcissist, by the way, but it does mean that you are at least showing some honesty and being a bit upfront. The date on the document doesn't help you, though, because it says you did it after the fact. After you were accused of lying about having BPD or being diagnosed with it. The original date would have helped you there.
Alice has made multiple tweets spreading false information about my medical history, whilst continuing to lie during these arguments she has online regarding me. Alice replied to a tweet which she believed was about me, where she denied that I have BPD, as she thought the original tweet was in defense of me. When it was pointed out the tweets were not about me, and that they were about another YouTuber, Alice tried to justify her ongoing posts lying about me as simply sharing information, even though nobody had asked, and she had said she wasn't going to post about me after the document was released due to the police investigation that she had lied about. Alice has continued to try and remain in control of the narrative surrounding me and my life for the last 12 months.
I'm going to be that person. We all knew this was about BoBlax since BoBlax was in the first, line, and there was a lot of discussion at this point about BoBlax's choices with life and such. BoBlax was certainly under a microscope for a time. It was not a good look for BoBlax, I will concede. I could also believe, though, that this was entirely sarcasm-based, because you can't really get tone from text. Of course not. But this is how I interpreted the exchange. As a joke and sarcasm. Again, at this point, your name had been forgotten, but Boblax was getting a lot of heat. Controlling the narrative is an interesting take though, isn't it?
By spreading many lies, including this one. Alice has opened her document by saying that I will make a contradicting response to the allegations that she has made against me, and that after posting her statement she can move on with her life. But this was a lie, as Alice has continued to post about me many times online to this day, as I have shown and will show throughout this video.
So something of interest about that tweet is that Andrew's comment was made, yes, this year, in February, was a reply to Alice who was replying to somebody else back on September the 20th, 2024. It's interesting to me, though, that Alice still makes time to reply to people who do, in fact, leave comments. That's interesting. There is certainly an obsessive trait that Alex will undoubtedly like to exploit at some point in this ridiculously long video.
Alice claimed that I threatened her not to come forward with her story and repeats this when talking with YouTube commentary channels. Alice shows no proof of this, and that is because this is the exact opposite, as Alice had been threatening and blackmailing me throughout our relationship and months after it had ended. I had told my friends that Alice had been hitting me. Alice denied this on text when she found out and threatened to sue me if I continued to tell people she had been hitting me throughout our relationship.
Oh dear. Okay, so you showed a bunch of screenshots in quick succession to drive home a point of physical aggression, all latching on to, over the course of this video so far, a one-time incident, and portraying it as if you were the victim of DV. Alice has been outed for not providing certain context, or for editing and deleting things. Yes, 100% doesn't help Alice in the slightest. You quickly showing for one frame certain screenshots to highlight your point of you being a victim as well doesn't work when people pause it to look at the screenshots to realise you're talking about one time. You're showing messages completely out of time, as in one at a different point in time, another point in time, and so on. The context is all over the place. You're trying to drive home a point that you are a victim. I can believe you are both in a very toxic relationship with each other, but since your proven track record for lying has been well established, none of this helps you in the slightest, and it's not going to help you going forward. Your credibility is shot. We all know you're a chronically online individual who desperately needs this because you've got nothing else going on. We know that. It's why I suggest you get a job at McDonald's or Starbucks, because some reality might well help you.
Alice says that my story will contradict hers, and that is because Alice knows that our relationship is not how she has portrayed it online.
I don't think that's the only reason. I think the other reason is because Alice put it all out there, dealt with people head on, was very vocal about everything. You went off. You disappeared. You vanished for most of a year. Yes, you can argue to collect your thoughts to present your side of it, but as I've shown so far, some of it can be called into question. Discrepancies have been found already. It didn't take long. I can imagine those who live-streamed a direct response to this when it first dropped found those discrepancies remarkably quickly.
Alice has lied constantly, and I can prove this with the text evidence that she is intentionally not included, as it contradicts her own story. Alice says we had a huge fight where I dragged her, covered her mouth, and put her in a headlock, and that this happened on the 19th of October, a few days after we had moved in with each other. There are no texts from this time that even suggest that we were fighting or had been in a fight, and that's because this did not happen. On the 19th of October, Alice asked me to call, and the next text message was Alice asking me to sort out my bike in the garage. Later that same day, Alice asked me what's happening, and I tell her the cat had shut me in the cupboard because I was fixing our heating, and then that night we texted about packages arriving the next day. At 1 past midnight, Alice tells me she'd made me pizza, and on the 20th of October, Alice asked me what I want from the shop, and then we go on to talk about buying Pokemon cards. To claim we had a huge fight where I physically assaulted Alice is a lie. I never did these things Alice has accused me of doing, because this never happened.
I'm going to be that person. It is possible that this is entirely truthful on the part of Alex, and there again were message discrepancies in the Google Doc that were called out by Cope and C. It is equally possible for an argument to have happened and there to be no text record of it. Arguments aren't recorded for posterity in text form, are they? Am I missing something here? Is this how the young hip folk now operate with relationships? They Dear Diary it in WhatsApp, or text message, Facebook Messenger if they still use that. Is that how we do it now? Dear Diary, at a point during this day, we had a blow up. I don't think that's how it works out, but okay. Then again, at the same time, it is worth acknowledging when you two have had arguments, it has been recognised in text form in some manner, either used as an insult towards each other, or because you wouldn't leave her alone when you were texting her obsessively. Yes, we highlighted that last year, I remember it quite clearly. This is where the toxicity of the relationship makes it harder to discern the truth, because at best all we have is written form, and assertion. It's harder to tell the truth, but we know based on what we've seen where some truth resides.
Alice has texted her mum and used this as proof that this event had taken place after screenshotting the text in real time, as the messages display the words today instead of the date that they were taken. Alice knew she would be using them in her document and that she had been planning this full story about me.
Do I have to be pedantic again and point out the discrepancy here as well? I feel like it's an obvious one that should be highlighted. It's that whole thing of what is and is not possible. Where it can be possible these were done after the fact, it's equally possible they were done on the day. We will never know because we don't have the messages like before to confirm the date before these messages.
Alice has used these texts to make it seem like I had physically assaulted her when this never happened. This isn't the only time Alice has used similar proof to claim something had happened which had never taken place at all, and she does this many times in her document. Alice provided a list of events that she had written herself directly into her notes app as evidence and has attached them to her document as proof. But Alice was still writing these stories after she had said that she had moved out, which shows that these were written at a later date retroactively for this document. Anyone could have written down anything on any date and claimed that it was true. Writing down words into a notes app can be done at any time, and is in no way, shape or form proof that something happened.
I don't think anyone thought of those as proof something happened, more just compiling all evidence in a haze, to put as much in one place as possible. You're well within your right, Alex, to pick and poke at parts where there are gaps, or where there is an opportunity to try and correct, if you can correct. But I thought of that as nothing more than just somebody putting down what they had as information, editing it, sure, taking bits out that perhaps weren't relevant or correct, fine. Obviously that can be used by you as a way of saying, ah yes, but you've made changes, therefore this is not fact and can be dismissed. Which is what you're doing, isn't it? It's kind of like poisoning the well.
The texts between us from that time reflect a totally different story that Alice has not included in her document, even though she provided an exact date of the day this had apparently taken place. Instead, Alice has fabricated a story entirely and has accused me of being physically abusive to hide the fact that she had been slapping, punching and kicking me throughout our relationship, something that she had tried to hide from her document and has lied about on Twitter publicly.
You really should leave those screenshots up for a longer period of time, because again, when I paused it and read those, it came across as, yes, physical, but when you looked at what they all said, it came across as a one-time incident as opposed to a slew of separate instances. So this is where Alice took crap for cropping images, you have too. So you are equally guilty of this. No one's saying that Alice hasn't lied, because Alice has been called out for lying over the past 8 to 9 months since this all started. Okay? That part is verifiable. There are some discrepancies. You are not helping yourself with the discrepancies you are using, unironically, to paint her as the aggressor as well, which is why many are now taking the stance that you are both just toxic. When I started making this video, my first thought was, if this is anything like Alice's Google Doc, things are going to be slightly out of time, in the sense that they're not going to quite line up, and things will be taken out of context even when more is provided, right? Or they'll be lacking in context, and so far I have been proven somewhat correct. This is mostly a he said, she said. Still, even with the evidence you provide, it's still he said, she said because we have nothing to verify the veracity of what you said, beyond you stating this did not happen, because these text messages show we could not have during this time. As if there aren't 24 hours in a day and text messages can just happen anyway.
Alice started to accuse me of being physically abusive with her after I had asked her multiple times to stop her constant physical attacks on me. Because these continued, I had asked to break up. The first time Alice ever mentioned that this assault had apparently happened was when we were in an argument on the day we broke up, and I had told her to leave the house. Alice accused me of grabbing her and said she could prove that this had happened because she had written down the date in her notes app, and then started to blackmail me and threaten me that she would go to the police and start calling me an abuser. I denied this ever happening and explained how it disturbed me that Alice was trying to gaslight me into believing that this had taken place.
I'm not going to try and excuse these exchanges, because I can't. There's no version of it where I'll even consider trying. I remember the other exchanges from the first video we did on this subject 9 months ago, and it comes across as two adolescent smegheads giving it some, acting like it large in text form, because that's apparently where everything is catalogued. Alex likes to throw up the same screenshots over and over again to highlight different aspects to drive home certain points. Nothing wrong with that, you just need to leave them on the screen a bit longer, rather than make your point and expect people to pause the video so they can get the information so they know you're actually presenting the information. I will not deny the level of toxicity between these two, and I feel sorry for the cat. The cat needs therapy or a better home. Now, if you'd like a part 2 of me continuing through this because there's so much more to go through, let me know in the comments, and it will be done for Monday, because I need to do something tomorrow and I'm very sorry. Do let me know what you think about what we've gone through so far. I do not believe there is anyone truly innocent in any of this, but I do believe that Alex, his inability to take responsibility beyond using racial slurs so far is impressive, because what we know from the other side, even from what was and was not cropped, doesn't make him look good. And don't forget, we've got those videos of him being quite verbally ABUSIVE as well. That poor defenseless brick that would have been used. Oh, but it's a figure of speech, everyone. I didn't mean it. Honestly, cringe.